Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. My name is Nuno, and I'm one of the directors at Nightingale Hammerson, and I'm pleased to be here to host you at today's webinar. So let me give you, first of all, a small introduction about Reach by Nightingale Hammerson. Reach by Nightingale Hammerson is a new charitable initiative that comes from Nightingale Hammerson, a well-known charity, and we have the mission to support people to live better for longer at home. And for that, we have been creating some free online content that you can find in our website, Reach by Nightingale Hammerson. If you Google Reach by Nightingale Hammerson, you can find us. Now, what we are here to do today is about sharing more about hearing and how important hearing is, mainly for older people. Now, today we've got a very special guest called Andrew Goodwin. Andrew Goodwin is a service manager for Engage, and he's going to introduce himself and tell you a bit more. But in terms of giving you a bit of an overview of what is going to happen today, so this meeting is being recorded right now, and then the recording is going to be available for whoever could not attend, or for people that have attended and want to hear more. Now, you will have the opportunity to ask any questions you wish to ask, either by writing them in the chat, or at the end, you can raise your hand and we can ask the question, or you can ask the question yourself to Andrew. Let me also invite you to follow Reach by Nightingale Hammerson on social media. You can find us on YouTube if you look for Nightingale Hammerson, and you can find all the content we've got in there, and the recording of this video is going to be available in there. But also you can find us on LinkedIn on Reach by Nightingale Hammerson, where we are posting every day exciting updates about care-related topics. So without further ado, I'm going to call Andrew to join us in our call today and to be able to introduce himself and start the presentation. This should not take longer than half an hour. So Andrew, welcome, and please carry on.
Thank you very much indeed for that wonderful introduction, Nuno. I'm now going to bring up my little presentation, and then we shall get started. Right, here we are. So, as Nuno said, this is a short presentation all about hearing loss and how it impacts upon people with hearing loss. This is going to be an interactive presentation. So I've got a few things I want to say, and then we're going to have the opportunity to ask you some questions and give some feedback. Okay, so let's get started. So what we're going to cover over the next sort of 15 minutes or so, I'm going to give you the opportunity to identify what it actually sounds like to have hearing loss, understand what the impact of that is, and then know how to support people by using good communication tactics. So don't forget, as Nuno said, at any point during this, you can drop a question into the chat, and then at the end of the presentation, we'll come through those. Okay, so who am I and why am I the one who's delivering this? So this picture was taken a little while ago. I am lucky enough to be able to use my personal experience and work for some excellent organisations such as RNID, Deafness Research UK and Hearing Link. I currently work for a charity called the JDA, Jewish Deaf Association, on a number of different projects, one of which is Engage, which works with care homes, and I also worked on another project called Hearing Matters at Home, which supports people with hearing loss living in their own homes. So I've almost blessed to be able to use my personal experience and also my professional knowledge to be able to support as many people as possible. So what does hearing loss sound like, and why do we need to discuss it? There are roughly 18 million people in the UK that about 1 in 3 of the population that had some kind of hearing loss. In fact, quite a few people who are attending this webinar may have a hearing loss as well. Now, the reason for that is mostly age-related hearing loss. Our hearing starts to break down at about the age of 20. So by the time we hit 30, we will have actually lost about a third of what we're born with. And by the time we hit 60, we're down to half. Now, this is a very gradual thing, but it does have an impact. So what I'm going to do first of all, I want to give you the experience of what it actually sounds like. Now, everybody who's listening, I want you to adjust your speakers, your headphones, your earbuds, so that you can hear me clearly. I'm not too loud or too quiet. And then I'm going to play a track. And I want you to listen carefully so you can hear and try and work out what's being said.
Hi, Amal. Glad I caught you. Hi, Elise. What can I do for you? Tilly's coming in this afternoon for 3 p.m. Can you arrange tea for us both in the pavilion? Sorry, Kieran is coming in to sing for us today. How about the Paris Lounge? Perfect, thanks.
Okay, did everybody hear that, all right? Yeah, okay. So you heard something, but what did you actually hear? Up on the screen shortly should appear a poll, and I want you to click on those on the poll and tell me, what do you think you heard? I'm just going to give that a few minutes and give people the opportunity to respond. Now, some people are saying that they could hear something, maybe a word or two. Some people couldn't hear anything at all. Yeah. So I'm just going to close that down. Now, you probably would have realized that it was very muffled. It was actually stimulation of somebody with a moderate to severe high-pitched hearing loss, quite common if you are over the age of 60. Now, yes, you may not have got that many words at all, but you may have actually worked out that it was a conversation between two people. You might have also worked out that it was a man and a woman talking, and you also would have worked out that it was a fairly friendly conversation. So I'm just going to move on to the next slide now. Now, hearing loss does have an impact on everybody's life. There is an emotional impact. How did that make you feel? So, for example, if that was your everyday reality, if every day, every week, every year, every conversation that you had, you heard like that, how would it make you feel? And I'm really interested in your response. So we're going to put up yet another quiz. I want you to type into this little box that just appeared on your screen, what do you think it would make you feel? For example, would you feel frustrated? So we'll type in frustrated. Now, once you click on submit, if you wait a minute or two, or a second or two, you will have the opportunity to put another word in there. So I'm going to give you maybe another 10 seconds, and let's see how many more words we can come up with. I can see that frustrated and isolated are the most popular words up there. Okay, I'm going to count down from 5 down to 1, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm going to move on from there. We're going to leave this up. So you can actually click the box to remove it, or you can just leave it up. Entirely up to you. Now, one of the things that people do tell us, we probably trained well over 3,500 people over the last few years, and they have told us everything that you said, yeah, frustrated and angry. So, for example, frustrated, angry, confused, helpless, isolated. In fact, there are so many ways that people describe how hearing loss makes them feel. Loneliness is probably the most important one. So one thing I really want you to try and take away from today's session is that there is an impact of hearing loss. So if you see somebody who's struggling, experiencing these kind of emotions because they can't hear, talk to them and try and support them as best you can. We need to try and break through this stigma around hearing loss. So what can help? Would making it louder help, do you think? Let's try it. So I'm going to play the track again, but this time what I'd like you to do is to turn your speakers or your headphones up just a little bit so I'm slightly on the loud side, but not too much. I don't want to give you hearing loss. So I'm now going to play the track again. Hopefully you will hear it clearly or better.
Hi, Mal. Glad I caught you. Hi, Elise. What can I do for you? Tilly's coming in this afternoon for 3 p.m. Can you arrange tea for us both in the pavilion? Sorry, Kieran is coming in to sing for us today. How about the Paris Lounge? Perfect, thanks.
So you've now heard it twice. Was that any better the second time? No. Unfortunately, shouting doesn't help. All that does is increase the distortion. So what can help? So I've got a few little suggestions here. The first two are to speak a little bit slower and to speak clearer. Now, when I say speak slower, I don't mean like this or over-enunciate, because that really doesn't help as well. It can come across as a bit patronizing too. So this is my natural speech as speed, but if I speak just a little bit slower, you can hear the space between each word, and suddenly you sound a lot clearer. That really can help. So straight away, that's becoming clearer. The other things we can think about, especially with supporting people who lip read, to be able to see the face is so important. So not from the side or from behind, but also consider people who are more mature, shall we say. Their eyes are less sensitive, so they need much brighter light in order to be able to see your facial features. When we talk about lip reading, we're also talking about the entire face, because when it comes to lip reading, only about a third of what is actually said can be read on the lips. The rest of what you say is produced back in the throat. So it's important to be clear when you're talking so that people can lip read easily. But the other issue is that when you have a hearing loss, it's difficult to hear the difference in tone. For example, hello and hello sound very different, but you need to show the facial expression as well. So hello and hello. You can see the difference, and that extra information which can make it easier to understand. Get their attention first is perhaps the most important thing I will ever suggest. If somebody, for example, if you were talking to me and I had my face in a book, which is quite often, if you start talking, you're going to be halfway through your third sentence before I'm aware of that you're trying to say something to me, and you're going to have to start all over again. So it's best to get my attention first, wait until I'm looking at you, that I'm focused, and then start talking. Now, how do you do that? I would never, ever tap somebody from behind on the shoulder, because then you'll just make them scream. So the best thing to do is to call their name or to wave. If somebody has age-related hearing loss, they will have adapted by using their peripheral vision more. So waving is a really good way of catching somebody's attention. Somebody's name, you have an emotional connection. It's a connection on your subconscious level. So if you call somebody's name, if you know it, they can also respond pretty well. If you must tap, try tapping the back of the hand or maybe the lower arm if you know them well. Avoid distraction and control the background noise. Now, if somebody wears a hearing aid will amplify everything that's in a room. So the hearing aid doesn't know what you want to listen to and what you want to ignore. So if you're trying to have a really important conversation with somebody, do consider doing that in a room with as little background noise as possible. Visual distraction can also play a part here. So, for example, if my lovely wife and I are in a cafe, if people walk past, I don't know what's going on, so I will look away from my wife. I know, terrible. I'll look away from my wife, look, see what's going on, realize it's not a danger to me, and then look back. But unfortunately, now I've lost the thread of the conversation. I know I should be focusing on my wife a bit more. I'll apologize a bit later. So what else can we do? Now, sign language is something that's always suggested to me. We have, as I said, about 18 million people with hearing loss in the UK. Depending on who you talk to, there's roughly 75,000 people who use British Sign Language as their first or preferred language. So the vast majority of people with hearing loss won't know sign language. However, as you may have seen that recent documentary by Rose Ayling-Ellis, thoroughly recommend it. She does recommend that you learn at least level 1 BSL. Learn some basic sign because that will also, as an aside, improve your communication skills. You could also consider learning finger spelling. So, for example, names are very difficult to lip read. So if you can do A, B, C, for example, that can really help. But the most important thing of all, ask. Everybody is different. Everybody has their own particular preferences and ways of communicating. We're all unique snowflakes, but it's always best to ask, what can we do to help? And the other thing I really want to point out here is, if you ask somebody, especially if you consider that they're struggling, you're showing that you genuinely want to help, and we can break down the stigma around hearing loss. So that was quite a lot, just a long list. So I've got just 4 basic golden rules to help you to remember how to communicate effectively. Now, this can be used with everyone, not just people with hearing loss. Of course, good communication is good communication. So the first one is get their attention first. Remember, wave or call their name. The second one is to repeat only once. Don't forget, people with hearing loss are listening to what you're saying. They're also looking at your lips. They're looking at your face. They're thinking about the context. And they've got to have time to put all that together. So when you're repeating, you're giving them time to process it. But if the sounds that you have made make no sense, repeating again and again isn't going to help. So that's golden rule number 3, rephrase. So for example, if you were to ask me, Andrew, what time are you catching the train? And I misunderstand the word train and think you said plane. I'm now going to think about going on holiday, and I'm now completely distracted from what you're saying. Now, if you said, what time are you catching the train? What time are you catching the train? I'm now still thinking about plane. So if we change it to, what time are you going to the train station? Or what time are you going home? That will hopefully help me get back on track. The last thing is to write it down. Now, when I say write it down, I don't mean the whole thing, just what is it you're talking about. Now, you can use pen and paper. If you have a smartphone, there are apps that will convert speech into text, which can be extremely helpful. So just think about what it is you're trying to say, the context, and then everything will be much clearer. Okay. That is actually almost the end of my presentation, but every time we do a training course or a presentation, I like to finish up with 3 action points. The first one is for you to look after your hearing because you are important. Happily, you can do this online now. You can get your hearing tested by Googling online hearing check. You'll get quite a number of different companies come up, one of which will be the RNID. And as it's a charity, they're not going to try and sell you a hearing aid. So you can be sure that they are genuinely interested in your hearing. It takes about 3 minutes. And if they tells you that your hearing is okay, great. You can relax and then in 2 years' time, do it again. If it says that there is an issue, you'll be suggested to go to your GP and arrange to have a proper hearing test with your local hospital. The second one is, throughout today's conversation, you might now be thinking about people who are getting frustrated and angry, confused in their conversation. They most likely have hearing loss. So we want you to talk to them about how to support them better. It's about that stigma again. We need people to start looking after our hearing, and wanted to look after it. The last one is to check me out on LinkedIn. So if you have had any questions from today that we've not been able to answer, find me on LinkedIn or through Engage on Facebook and also from YouTube, and then I'll be able to answer any questions you might have. Now, we've been doing this in collaboration with Reach. We have a fantastic website. We've got some videos coming out, hopefully fairly soon, about how to manage hearing aids, how to manage earwax, that kind of thing. They're very short, bite-sized, and easily accessible. That is the end of my little presentation. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's now time to answer your questions. So over to Nuno.
Thank you very much, Andrew. An excellent presentation, as always. Yeah, Andrew is a fantastic speaker, he's a fantastic trainer, quite a significant. The majority of our team members at Nightingale Hammerson have already been trained by Engage, by Andrew and his colleague Porrick. And definitely, you know, one of the things that we identified is that when we don't know that we don't know, we don't see it as an issue. Meaning that if we don't understand how important hearing is in the older people's lives, in everybody's lives, but you know, in our specific population, we don't really understand what are the areas we need to improve on. So now the floor is open for questions. You can either raise your hand and we bring you in, or you can write your questions in the chat. In the meantime, while you're preparing your questions, it's fantastic to have Andrew's LinkedIn. You can follow him on LinkedIn. He posts very interesting things. You can also follow Rich by Nightingale Hammerson on LinkedIn. And you can also follow us on YouTube. And we will be able to, you will be able to see all the new contents that will be put in there. I could see that we had Richard that raised his hand. Richard, do you still want to ask a question? Yes, okay, can we bring Richard in, please? Bring Richard over. We're going to bring Richard in. Richard works with Care England, so and helped also to promote today's event. So, yeah.
Is that Richard?
The mic is still locked. Okay. There you go. I think you need to unmute now and you'll be able to speak. And if you want to put your camera on, we can all see you as well.
In touch.
Still can't unmute now.
Okay. Hi. So
Yes,
I just wanted to ask, in terms of, so I work for Holland Park Synagogue, and we have a lot of members that they especially struggle when the rabbi, for example, is giving a sermon on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And if there's certain ways that we can help with that, because obviously then he's speaking to a wide range of people and about carrying to the voice so that they are able to hear what he's saying.
So we have another project. I keep very busy these days, and the project is called Hearing Matters in Our Community. And we've been working with a number of synagogues and also other community groups around that issue specifically. Now, some of it is because of the acoustics in the building. Some of it is because the rabbi perhaps talked a little bit too fast. And it's also about thinking about what kind of technology can be used. And you can use some technology on the Sabbath, for example, using the loop system along with hearing aids. But there's also other audio type of technology which can be of use. Can I suggest that you get in touch with me through LinkedIn or through the email, and we'll be able to set up a visit so we can then see how we can help. There is no charge for the visit, and we've got lots of really good advice. But one of the key things we do tend to suggest is people to slow down.
Okay, yeah, that'd be lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we've got Carlos that's raised his hand as well. So we are going to bring Carlos in so he can ask his question. Feel free also to write your questions in the chat. So we are going to have Carlos now.
Do you see Richard's question then?
Hello.
Hello, I can hear you, Carlos. Hello there.
Hello, Andrew. First of all, I just want to say that was a brilliant presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Question I had is related to hearing, and I just wanted to know what signs do you think are often missed when it comes to hearing loss early on?
I think there is a bit of denial that we have an issue. So usually for most people, it is when we hit our 40s, we are aware that our hearing isn't as sharp as it used to be, and particularly in noisy environments, then we are aware that we didn't quite catch what somebody said. But rather than ask people to repeat or to move to a quieter room, we then use what's called the NHS, nodding head syndrome. And then you get caught out, but then there's the denial about it as well. Now, we always suggest the best thing to do is to get your hearing tested on a regular basis. Most of us will not think twice about getting our eyes tested every 2 years. Why not get your hearing tested as well? And as I said in the presentation, you can do it online, 3 minutes, quick hearing check, my hearing's okay. If there's a problem, the next thing is to do something about it. Now, I'm aware that certainly within the NHS, there's a lot of long waiting lists, but the best thing to do is to at least get yourself on that waiting list and do something about it. Okay? Thank you for that question. Excellent question. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. Now we've got a question from the chat, Andrew, that says, I've moderate hearing loss. Have always had it, but didn't realize until 10 years ago. I now wear hearing aids. When I tell people, they talk to me like I'm stupid.
Yeah.
What is the best way to explain to people?
So one of the challenges for people with hearing loss is to have the confidence to say, I have a hearing loss. This is what I need you to do in order to help me. Now, everybody is different. And so some people will say, can you just speak a little bit slower, please? Or if you have one ear that's better, ask them to talk more to that side, or whatever actually works for you. Now, one of our other projects, we have lots of different projects. One is called Hearing Connect, and we have some excellent advice on the website. And also you can get in touch either by phone, by email, or we can do video call. Totally free service about how to get the best out of your own hearing. One other thing I would also suggest is if you haven't done already, consider going to a lip reading class. Not just about lip reading, but also you're meeting your peers and you'll get some fantastic advice on how to cope with hearing loss, how to talk to people about what you need. Best of luck.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Very clear, your answer. Next question. Can AirPods affect your hearing?
Ooh, now I'll have to try my very best not to get on my high horse here. Any kind of amplified sound you do need to be very careful with. So there's this concept that you can listen to sound at a certain volume for a certain length of time before damage occurs. It's about sort of 85 decibels over 8 hours. However, if you were to listen to something at 90 decibels, it's a lot higher, therefore the length of time you can listen to it is going to be shorter. Now, AirPods or any kind of smartphone are supposed to be set at a volume that you can listen to it for 8 hours without any problem. However, you can bypass this using very, very simple settings, and actually even a 4-year-old can work out how to do it. So you do need to be careful. So the short answer is AirPods can't or shouldn't, but you can bypass the fail-safe. So we do recommend that you try not to listen to anything amplified for more than a few hours at a time. Give your ear a break and clean those earbuds, those AirPods or headphones. They've been on the floor, make sure they're clean, keep your ears safe.
Very good. And we've got another question in here. So this is from Richard, actually,
Okay.
that is saying, I just wanted to say, well done. That was great. My question was to understand what training looks like, both
Okay.
online and in person, and how many people you can train in an in-person event.
Okay, thank you for that question, Richard. So we tend to do in-person event at most about 15 people and will last for about 2 hours. Every course that we do is bespoke. So what will work for a care home will be very different in, for example, a community centre, because you have different needs. So for example, we're doing some training for an ambulance service. So we're having to train the call staff on good communication over the phone. That's not really needed for somebody who works in a care home, as an example. So everything is different, but the key thing is we love giving you the experience of hearing loss. We put you in the shoes of people with hearing loss so you can understand how to help them better and why it's important. Everybody loves our training because getting out of it is personal to them.
Thank you. One very interesting question just came up. That is, how do you approach someone who is losing their sight as well as their hearing?
Oh, excellent question. Now, we have members of JDA who come to our day centre every week, and we have several people who are deaf-blind or blind-deaf. The difference is whichever sense that they lost first is the one that comes first. So, for example, someone who is deaf-blind will have lost their hearing first, then their sight. Now, depending on how the people have lost their sight, whether they're in the process or about to lose it, it's about providing them with the right kind of support as soon as possible. Now, somebody who has absolutely no sight and no hearing loss suddenly, so for example, if they have been in a car accident, it's about taking the time to help them develop new techniques. It's not something I can cover in just a few minutes of conversation, but there are methods. If you saw the Rose Aiding Ellis documentary, you would have seen a gentleman who's using BSL, but somebody's holding his hand in order to communicate. So at least he can feel where the hand is going to create the sign. This takes time to learn. And of course, if you're losing your sight, you need to get help straight away. And again, JDA can help in this matter.
Fantastic. Andrew, we are getting to an end of our webinar, which is great. We have been here for 35 minutes. We extended it for 5 minutes because, there was a lot of interest in here. I'd like to say thank you so much, Andrew, for taking the time to speak with us, with our audience. There will be a follow-up email sent to all the attendees where we also ask you to give us your feedback, right? We always want to improve our webinars and your feedback is welcome. If you want to reach Andrew, we can also connect you with Andrew. If you email back to us on the reach email, then we can send all the questions to Andrew. And also you will, if you join our community, our mailing list, you will be getting all the updates from the new videos that we are releasing together with Engage and Jewish Deaf Association about hearing loss, how to approach someone, how to speak with someone with hearing loss, how to look after your hearing aids, and a lot more interesting things. So if you want to follow us on YouTube or on LinkedIn, you're going to have the links in the chat now that you can follow us, and obviously follow also Engage Care. So thank you very much to everyone. Andrew, again, thank you so much. And
thank you very much indeed for having me. Yeah.
Yes, we'll see each other soon. Thank you and have a good day. Bye-bye. All the best. Bye.